This is an update to the video I posted titled No Longer Silent, Israel's War on Gaza and Palestinians. I've gotten several comments from people who think Hamas broke the ceasefire and the Palestinians in Gaza got what they deserved. One person told me that Hamas started bombing Israel in December during Hanukkah. This is completely untrue, and this is exactly the sort of news distortions I was referring to when I said it isn't fair to omit half the story and demonize the victims as Israel has done. Israel is the one who broke the ceasefire. Israel broke the ceasefire by going into Gaza and killing 6 Palestinians on the night of November 4, 2008. November 4th was the presidential election day in the United States, so our news media was dominated by news from the election results for the next several days. I suspect Israel planned this attack specifically on the night of our election day to keep it out of the news and keep people from realizing that Israel was the one who broke the ceasefire. Why is it important who broke the ceasefire between Israel and Hamas? It's important because since Israel is the one who broke the ceasefire, they may have violated international law by launching an offensive attack on Gaza where they used grossly disproportional military force. On CNN, Rick Sanchez reviewed several news articles that confirmed Israel broke the ceasefire by invading Gaza and killing 6 Palestinians. Search YouTube for CNN, Israel broke the ceasefire, not Hamas. I searched Google for all the articles he mentioned in his news clip, and I have posted them on my Facebook group webpage, which I will tell you about shortly. Israel killed these Palestinians based on nothing but Israeli suspicion of a planned attack. Israel claims these people were a security threat, but their words can't be trusted without evidence, and they can't break a ceasefire just because they suspect someone might attack them. The whole reason I've become passionate about this issue is because I've seen enough evidence to believe that the Israeli government is actively trying to suppress and distort the information we receive through the news to demonize Palestinians when Palestinians are actually the real victims here. In Israel's attack on Gaza, they bombed a United Nations warehouse that was storing hundreds of tons of food and medicine. Israel deliberately used bombs that contained white phosphorus so that all the food would be inedible and all the medical supplies unusable due to chemical contamination. Now Palestinian civilians who were wounded in Israel's attacks will be more susceptible to death from infections and illnesses due to lack of antibiotics and lack of adequate nutrition. It's impossible to treat infections caused by bullet and shrapnel wounds without medicines. Such an action is very clearly not an attack on Hamas, but an attack on the health and well-being of all Palestinians in Gaza. Noam Chomsky says this is not surprising because Israeli army officials have been quoted as saying they deliberately target civilians. Search YouTube for Chomsky on Gaza 1 of 5 and pay special attention to what he says at 4 minutes and 20 seconds. I strongly urge you to watch his video. Noam Chomsky points out that 30 years ago the chief of staff of the Israeli army actually said the Israeli army has always struck civilian populations purposely and consciously. The army has never distinguished civilian from military targets, but has purposely attacked civilian targets. Keep this in mind when you think about the fact that they bombed the United Nations warehouse storing food and medicine with phosphorus bombs to cause chemical contamination. Israel has refused to let any reporters into Gaza, and one Israeli official even admitted to a reporter that they weren't going to let any reporters into Gaza until news media was dominated by the January 20th inauguration of President Obama and his new presidency. I had posted the YouTube link to the video where the reporter says this, but the YouTube censors removed the video. I located another copy of the video so you can see what the reporter said in the video that YouTube censored. Search YouTube for Richard Engel on why Israel won't let reporters into Gaza. On top of this, Israel struck 2 high-rise buildings that housed international news media offices in Gaza City, which included news media offices for Reuters and the Associated Press. Israel suppresses news media because Israel's biggest fear is that people will learn the truth about Palestine. The Israeli government knows that it is Israeli military policy to deliberately attack innocent civilians. This is why the Israeli government refused to allow reporters into Gaza during the war. The Israeli government did not want reporters documenting Israel's deliberate attacks on innocent civilians. For those who don't know how Israel came to exist, the birth of Israel can be traced back to the British Mandate of Palestine. During World War I, the British got control of the Palestine area and decided to create a national home for Jewish people. As a result, many Jewish people who were not born there migrated to the area under what has become known as the right of return. The right of return is the concept that Jewish people have a right to live in this area because their ancestors lived there a few thousand years ago. So effectively, the British gave Jewish people throughout the world the land where Palestinians were living. The massive migrations of Jewish people to the Palestine area has created tensions between Israelis and Palestinians that result in frequent conflicts between them. Israeli settlers have been known to throw firebombs into the houses of Palestinians to force Palestinians to flee the area. A friend of mine explained this situation using the following analogy. Imagine that there was a war where China got control over the United States. After this war is over, China decides to establish a right of return for all Native American Indians. Under this right of return, everyone whose ancestors were Native American Indians gets to kick all other Americans out of their homes and take their land away. These displaced Americans are then forced to live on the Indian reservations, where they are walled in with blockaded borders under armed guard, such that they effectively live in prison camps. Americans who don't cooperate have firebombs thrown into their houses, causing their children to suffer disfiguring burns in order to force them to flee. Does this sound absurd? This is what has happened to the Palestinian people. The 1.5 million people of Gaza effectively live in a large prison camp that is controlled by the Israeli military. Israel treats Palestinians as if Israel is a cruel person holding the tail of a cat and refusing to let go so the cat can eat and drink. As the person holds the cat's tail, the cat attempts to bite and scratch the person to get the person to let go. Every time the cat tries to get free, the person punches the cat, claiming the cat tried to attack him. In America, we call this an abusive relationship. Israel has blockaded Gaza's borders and restricted food supply into Gaza for years. Israeli bulldozers have destroyed Palestinian houses inside Gaza almost on a daily basis. Israel's attack on Gaza clearly demonstrated that the Palestinians in Gaza do not have the military power to confront the Israeli military directly. If you were in their situation, would you sit around and twiddle your thumbs, or would you launch rockets into Israel to try to break free of Israeli oppression? Tear down the walls, set them free. It's the only way peace can be. I have created a group on Facebook for people who want freedom and justice for Palestinians. Please go to Facebook and search for the Call for Walls to Fall, Free Palestine. If you are on Facebook and are a member of groups that want to see freedom and justice for Palestinians, please send messages to the group administrators to let them know about my group and ask them to tell their members. Ask them to share my YouTube page with their members. It is youtube.com/user/no-longer-silent-USA. We need to connect our organizations, groups, and members together to form a massive, intelligent collective that will allow us to act together in unison for collective actions, demonstrations, and peaceful protests. The faster we can connect with each other, the stronger this movement will become. The fastest way to spread the word is to ask the leaders of groups and organizations to tell their members. People have a right to know the truth. Let's tell everybody. While I'm on the topic of spreading the truth, I would like to call attention to something that has happened in the week since I posted my first video. 2 of the videos that are referenced in my first video have disappeared from YouTube due to censorship. I would like to point out that these videos contained nothing but people speaking the truth about Israel. Because of this, I have created a Facebook group titled YouTubers Against Free Speech Censorship. Please search Facebook for this group and join it to help us protect each other from censorship that violates our right to free speech and breaks laws against discrimination based on race, ethnicity, or religion. Document the videos you post and report possible violations of our laws to the American Civil Liberties Union at their website, aclu.org. In my first video, I proposed that we stage a Peace and Freedom March on Saturday, January 24, 2009 to bring Gaza back into the news after the presidential inauguration. As I recently mentioned to everyone who registered on Facebook to attend this event, there hasn't been enough time for word to spread, so I decided to postpone the date and announce it later through our Facebook groups. Unfortunately, the Israeli plan to use the presidential inauguration and Obama's new presidency to suppress news coverage on Gaza is working. When I looked in my newspaper for news on Gaza this morning, there were only 2 paragraphs on the very last page of the main section, and all they talked about was people in Gaza praying in front of a destroyed mosque. There was nothing said about the 50,000 people now homeless in Gaza, or the 400,000 people in Gaza who do not have water. Because Israel bombed the United Nations warehouse with phosphorus bombs and made hundreds of tons of food and medicine unusable due to chemical contamination, it is a matter of urgent importance that Israel's border blockades on Gaza are lifted so humanitarian aid and supplies can move quickly and freely. We need to stage more peaceful protests to pressure our governments to get Israel to lift the blockade on Gaza's borders so Palestinians can get the humanitarian aid they so desperately need now. You can show your support for such protests by searching Facebook for the event Peace and Freedom March and indicating you would like to attend the event. If we need to stage peaceful protests every Saturday to spread the word and build our numbers, then so be it. The people in Gaza need our voices. In the meantime, I have created a new Facebook event titled Letter to Obama on Gaza. Please join me in sending letters to our government representatives to pressure them to end the Israeli oppression of Palestinians. A friend of mine is concerned that because the Israeli government murdered Rachel Corrie for speaking out, they might murder me for speaking out. The truth is more powerful than any military in the world. They can kill our bodies, but they cannot kill our words. Free speech will never die. Free speech will never die. I stand proudly and firmly with the Palestinian people along with my fellow Americans and my fellow citizens of the global community who are making a stand against the Israeli suppression of truth and the Israeli obstruction of justice. To the YouTube censors, if you strike me down for speaking out, I will become stronger than you can imagine. I will not cower in silence out of fear. I will make my words heard loud and clear. It's time for us to call for walls of hate to fall. Like the Berlin Wall, the Gaza Wall must fall. War is not the way to peace. Kindness is the way to peace. Thank you.